Welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. Delighted to be talking with a person in Zoom that I've heard about. I've heard this person's name many times, but I believe this is the first time we've met. On this episode, glad to be talking with artist, writer, creator, Josh Ross. Josh, thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
A pleasure, a pleasure. You have some cool body art as well, I'm noticing. The artistry runs deep, it looks like.
Oh yeah, quite a bit. Yeah, I'm pretty heavily tattooed, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you and I have a mutual friend in Dirk Manning, and I've seen a lot of your work with SourcePoint Press and the publishing that he's done prior to SourcePoint. And we're also talking on this episode about a book called Divinity called Shotgun. So I'm excited to get into that territory as well.
Yeah, me too. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Curious first, how you developed your style. You have a wonderful style that captures the supernatural. I'm thinking about your work in RSVP ESP, I believe is the name of the book.
hmm
So just curious about that and how that style came along.
Boy, I don't even know. I was actually digging through some of my old comic book stuff that I've been drawing. I mean, I've been drawing back since I could hold a marker, and I was scribbling on my parents' walls at like 2 years old. But comic books has been a love of mine since I was like probably 8, 9 years old, and yeah, kind of digging through my style, it's funny to see like the evolution of stuff because definitely in like my teenage years there was a lot of Jim Lee, X-Men, Liefeld, that kind of stuff, Deadpool, kind of early 90s type influences, a lot more cross-hatching, lack of anatomy skills and stuff like that. College definitely started to become a little more Frank Miller kind of things. I like the darker, like kind of playing with shadows and things, but I guess I realized I was not super great with that. I don't know how exactly evolved into where I'm at now. It just kind of evolves from doing it. A lot of my stuff is very line work based, and I don't do a lot of like shadows. I don't put a lot of almost next to no blacks. I let the colorist kind of play with the scenes. And yeah, just I like drawing detail, discovering like Mobius and Jeff Darrow and a lot of European comics. It just kind of there was like an influence in some of that that just kind of came out. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say how it came from, and I've been influenced by a lot of different types of styles, and I definitely like texture. I like detail, but I'm not good at blocking in. Like I'm definitely no Magnola. I can't figure out lights and shadows and stuff, but I can draw a crazy scene with 20 characters fighting. So I think it just kind of evolved that way with just having fun drawing stuff. And then working with Dirk Manning, I think, as a kid, you're like, I just want to draw cool comics. I want to draw stuff blowing up. I want to draw fight scenes and stuff. And then working with him, it really kind of it's a lot of talking heads. So it made me all of a sudden have to learn how to make it interesting if people are just sitting around for 8 panels having a conversation. Like how do I move the hands? How do I make, change some camera angles and stuff. So I think a lot of it just came from doing kind of more talky comics and then discovering indie comics because most indie comics are a lot of my favorite indie comics are just slice of life kind of things. So just drawing people. So it has been a weird evolution from crazy to subdued, but I still love like RSVP, just being able to draw some of those crazy, you know, magic scenes and the distortion of panels and stuff was definitely a lot of fun. But just a progression of interests, I guess.
There seems to be something of kind of a Mike Allred meets American Splendor plus your own thing. It's a very cool style, so I do appreciate
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to see it because nobody ever sees their own style kind of thing, but it's nice to hear
it.
that. And when I used to do all my critiques back in the early 2000s and go to Comic Cons and stuff, you go to a Marvel editor and they were nice enough, but a lot of times I got told I had a European style, and I didn't know what it meant. I wasn't trying to mimic anything, but it was the influences of things that I was discovering in the kind of more indie comic. Yeah, like you said, Mike Allred and stuff, kind of discovering a different style than just Spider-Man. So
Yeah. But what's cool though is how characters look. I mean, in the mainstream of like the big two and those kind of places, like I think there's definitely room for that because, there's a definite feel to that. And you use the word texture. I feel like some of those bigger, larger than life worlds, like that texture really helps. And you're working with like kaiju and like mythological squirrels and all sorts of things. So even with that texture and realism, there's a nice fantasy element that comes through.
I do enjoy that. If it feels kind of grounded, but kind of surreal, there's something something I find appealing is almost making something abnormal feel normal. So,
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Now we mentioned Dirk Manning. How did you get to working with him? And then working with him has also led to working with people like Josh Mallerman and the folks that he's connected to. So curious about that collaboration and interaction.
we met 22 years or so ago, digital webbing days on a forum. He had just started Nightmare World 2000, probably emailed me. I still have a couple of our first emails. It was something like September, boy, like 2001, something around that October, around that time. He shot me an email and just said, "Hey, I've got this new web comic. I need, your work looks cool. Would you be interested in drawing an 8-page story for me?" Like it was an unpaying gig. I almost deleted his email. Um, but I figured, hey, I was in that era. I was trying to like get some professional work, and I was like, working with another creator is portfolio stuff. So I was like, even though it wasn't paying, I was like, I can do 8 pages. And it kind of went from there. I did a story. We had a good time. We chatted a lot. We kind of hit it off and just kind of fell into his stable of regular artists and ended up doing more Nightmare World stories than any other artist, which then just led through the next, then leading into Tales of Mystery
Hmm.
and to the next project and the next project. But yeah, I mean, over the years, just became friends and used to chat a lot. We were involved in both of our, each other's weddings, stuff like that. So yeah, we just, even though we live 8 hours apart, we were able to kind of have that connection and met up a few times. And now we see each other probably about once a year anymore, cross paths. But yeah, we still keep in touch. So just it's a weird professional friendship relationship we've managed to build and just a mutual respect. We used to tell everybody back in the day we did it because we just love doing it. And I think we found each other that we just kind of love doing it. We've never done it for really honestly anything other than just love. Just we love making comics. If we can make some money, if we can get into some people's hands, that's fantastic. But we just kind of love making comics.
Cool, definitely so, and that passion comes through, and yeah. Now I'm picturing the two of you like running toward each other in a field of comics. It's a beautiful image. It's beautiful.
I think we've had those moments a couple times.
Yeah, yeah. Now, please tell us a little bit about Divinity Calls Shotgun. How did this story come to be? And uh, some people are hearing the title for the first time, so anything that people should know about this book?
It's wild. It's kind of my love letter to all the books that I grew up reading. A lot of the fun things that I just, there's a lot of influences of random stuff from Hellboy and Preacher and Tank Girl, and it really just kind of became honestly, I'd started drawing it 3 years ago or so. I was kind of on like a couple weeks at home staycation from a minor surgery, and I was sitting around, and I was like, I'm just going to start drawing. And I needed something because I just finished drawing RSVP or London After Midnight, and so I've kind of completed those two books. It was kind of, what, honestly, I don't think I did. Gotta think of my timelines because it was a couple years ago. Maybe I hadn't even jumped into those yet. I'd finished my book Left Turns, and I needed something fun. And so I found an old story that my brother wrote 20 something years ago. And he used to be a decent writer in college. And it's just kind of a short, never like incomplete, random thing he wrote. And it was angels and gods and bazookas. And most of it didn't make sense. Definitely was like this incomplete, there were some core concepts of stuff in there, but I was like, okay, I just want to draw something wacky. This is just my palette cleanser, draw something fun. And I drew the first 20 pages or so, and then I did RSVP in London After Midnight with Dirk Manning. And so that book kind of got pushed to the side, and I was like, well, whatever. And I finished those, and then I needed something new, and I was like, well, I kind of got stuck in that because my brother had never finished writing it. It was a loose idea of a plot, but I'd drawn too many pages to just throw it away. So then I kind of was like, let's jump into that. So I kind of brought it back up, and then I just kind of ran with it from there. I have a weird method where my personal books, I don't write a script. I just draw it. I kind of make it up in my head, and I almost tell a silent story. So probably 85% of Divinity Calls Shotgun had no official story. I had a handful of notes. I knew where it was going to kind of go, but I just needed to get people from this point to this point, and they were going to fight something, and then they were going to go here, and then I would add the dialogue on top of it. And I mean, I knew it had some existential scenes and who the characters were because they were in my head, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to draw something fun, but I had to kind of get over a couple little speed bumps, and yeah, it's got kind of tried to base heaven and hell is not a new concept in a book, but I was trying to base it off like there's a lot of fantasy stuff where people just all their demons and everything looks like anime characters or everything's cool armor and it's so cool there's no unified universe or something. So that's kind of like the surreal but making it feel real kind of attitude. I was like, I'm going to base it more on like old Renaissance illustrations and paintings. So all my angels are still wearing robes and the curly hair and Greek statues and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's still some wacky stuff in it and bunch of random sort of mishmashes of religions and kind of imagery, but basically the plot is I don't know, think of a Santa Claus story where there's only one Santa Claus, but Santa Claus has to get a replacement every so often. So there have been multiple Santa Clauses, but there's only one Santa Claus. Well, what if you just found out we're up to God 157? So there have been multiple gods, but there's only one God. And so it kind of allows like in this crazy fictional universe that maybe all the gods have been real at some point, whether it was Thor or Ganesh or somebody else, it's kind of irrelevant. It just kind of goes, here's this generic mythology of various gods. Well, God has randomly died in a tragic accident. There is no God, so for a few days, the earth is starting to essentially fall apart. Demons are able to come to earth. There's no divine rule. Thoughts and prayers are starting to back up. There's just like kind of chaos in heaven. And this guy, Mitch, is kind of introduced in the beginning of this book, and he's supposed to be the next God. And then it just gets in this crazy story. Like he doesn't know he's supposed to be God. And hell has hired a hitman to take out God because the devil sort of wants to kind of create anarchy and the heaven and hell souls and stuff like that. And I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but ultimately, God and the devil are both killed. And what happens when there is no God and there is no devil? And eternity is kind of witnessing all this and has to take a human form to kind of correct the balance of the universe. And then she teams up with a fallen angel. And they kind of go on this road trip through heaven and hell and to confront this new false god and all these, battles and whatnot. And it just kind of a lot of existential questions about what is life and reincarnation and our purpose and all that kind of stuff wrapped up in crazy demonic penguins and squirrels and animals. And yeah, so I don't know. It's a little bit of, I mean, the closest thing I can think to off my head is, some Shaolin cowboy with crazy animal monsters and things like that, just some wackiness, some little bit of Kill Bill, a little bit of Dogma, a little bit of Hellboy, all kind of crammed into one just crazy ride.
Plus a little on the road. You got a little Kerouac working in there too. Kevin Smith and Kerouac. We love
Yep,
it.
it's a little bit of that. So,
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I have always been kind of a mythology person. I love mythology, spirituality. Was that a big influence for you growing up, thinking about like
uh,
Clash of the Titans and Thor and some of those
always love
things?
that kind of stuff, fairly
Oh yeah.
religious home growing up, definitely grew up in the 80s in the sort of like rapture era, anti-Satanism stuff, a lot of satanic panic kind of stuff. So definitely as a child, I had a lot of, probably even as adult, reoccurring nightmares of being left behind kind of stuff from the things my
Hmm.
parents threw at me. And monster films, and definitely grew up in like old 50s sci-fi and horror films. Yeah, just a big fan of all that. But yeah, I think mythology is fascinating. I think, all the different gods and creatures, and whether they're minotaurs and completely made up, or it's other different, whatever one people want to believe, whatever kind of stories they want to tell. I find that stuff kind of fascinating. And this story's got a little jumble of everything without kind of really, there's no preachy, there's no, I kind of deliberately tried to kind of stay away from like any, this is not an anti-religion, it's not a poking fun at anybody. I tried to be aware of some like cultural appropriation, that kind of stuff. Like I don't want to step on somebody's toes and they read it. It's just a, yeah, there's angels and demons and a very generic kind of thing. There have been multiple gods, but there's no, this isn't some anti-Catholicism or any kind of religious type of thing. It's just a, even kind of, I'd say preacher was definitely much more offensive than anything that's in my book. But that kind of just was a generic, there's a God. And it didn't really, he was a preacher. It didn't get into any like ultra specifics. It was like good guys, bad guys, cowboy western kind of stuff. And this is kind of, here's some good, here's some bad, angels, demons. Let's right the wrongs of, the balance of all that kind of stuff.
And penguins do make an appearance.
There are penguins, they're a lot of people's favorite scenes in the book. They're not in it as much as I kind of wish they were, but there are most of the angels and demons, their sort of earthly forms are some kind of animal. So that's where we get these a variety of different animals throughout the book. And yes, there are a handful of pages of some pretty cute demonic penguins. So
And wonderful work going panel to panel on those pages all through the book. This is around 200 pages, right? So this was a creative endeavor and commitment. What was that process like of unfolding this epic story?
it was hard keeping it at 200 pages because if I was let go completely, it probably would have been 300 pages. But I definitely kind of like set a limit for this one to try to keep it within 200 pages, to just kind of get in, get out, and just tell kind of a fun story. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to kind of indefinitely just draw 30 pages of battle scenes and stuff like that. And there are some pretty epic battle scenes in this book. Yeah, just there's a lot going on in it, but it's also relatively simple. It is kind of that Kill Bill, get revenge, get from here to get to there. There's stuff, that the introduction, there's a handful of characters, but once they're kind of on the road, get to here, talk to this person, get to the next point, talk to this person, work our way into heaven, move things around, and wrap it all up. And like I said, I knew where it was gonna go, but I just kind of drew it. I don't know. It's a little more of the Stan Lee method, I guess, the old Marvel method, kind of have a plot, but while the dialogue wasn't written, kind of had a short story. And then Stan Lee would send people like Spider-Man punches Green Goblin, but he didn't have all the dialogue written until he got all the pages. And then he kind of added the words over it, and then hiring Mike Negan as an editor definitely helped kind of pull this together a little bit, made sure, everything was consistent throughout it, brought in some of the deeper existential tones and conversations throughout the book that kind of, it's crazy, but you still want some characters that you can care about, and you want to have some moments where you're like, okay, I kind of relate to these people, and this is, going through some heavy stuff, but yeah, I've got their back. This is kind of fun. I want to see where they're going to go next.
Cool, cool. Yeah. Now you're also part of the Source Point Press family now, right? This is
I am, yeah.
a kind of a new venture or kind of a new take on a title that's been around for a while. So, curious about anything that you'd like to share about that.
I mean, I guess this is my fourth book through them now. Kind of same as it's been the last couple of years. I mean, it's exciting to see where Dirk Manning takes this. I mean, a lot of that stuff is, kind of behind the scenes and his stuff. I'm just kind of like, I made a book, I got a publisher, the Kickstarter and stuff is going to be my responsibility, but a lot of the behind the scenes stuff is their work, contracts and that kind of stuff, make sure all the legal clauses and things are put together. But yeah, it's exciting to be a part of that. It's really, I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming out now, so it'll be cool to look back in a year or two and go look at all the crazy books that they've put out and getting to be a part of that family and some convention stuff hopefully in the future lined up and getting to interact with a few more of these guys and kind of become a little bit of that stable. But yeah, I don't know.
Uh,
It's just it's cool to be part of a team, I guess.
any convention spaces that you want to mention coming up, as well as where we can learn about the book online, spaces like that that people should go and check out.
Right now, in terms of Comic Cons, I mean, we have a local annual Comic Con at a high school in Phillipsburg. I will be doing that in May, I believe the 11th. It's just a one-day event. They have an after-school Comic Con kind of group, and they actually pull in a decent amount of artists for a one-day thing in their cafeteria. Just being close enough to New York and Philly, they actually bring in a decent amount of volunteer artists to be a part of that. So I will be there in May. And then I believe it's the weekend. It's actually the first weekend in June, the 5th and 6th, I believe. I will be in Pittsburgh with Dirk Manning and Austin McKinley. And it coincidentally falls on the 20th anniversary of the launch of Tales of Mystery. So the original team will kind of be back together for a weekend at that convention. So the Three Rivers Comic Con, yeah, June 5th and 6th, we will be there, and I'll have some exclusive, like a new print, 20th anniversary print of Tales of Mystery. So yeah, it's exciting just to kind of get that team back together again, and can't believe it's been 20 years already. I put in a bid for New York Comic Con, so I'm hoping I'll be there this fall. We'll see if I can get a table, hopefully SPX as well. It's a lottery bid, so I'm kind of just waiting to hear on those kind of scenarios. But yeah, right now, just small convention in Phillipsburg and a convention in Pittsburgh. And then to learn more about Divinity Call Shotgun, you can go to my personal website, artronan9.com, uh, see my artwork and tattoo work and a lot of my comic panels. There's links to everything, to like where to pick up books and purchase them, and to the Kickstarter and stuff. And then there is a Kickstarter for Divinity Calls Shotgun as well. I believe if you just go to www.divinitycallshotgun.com, I think it takes me to my website. I can't click on it at the moment. Which then would direct you to the Kickstarter, but the Kickstarter link is, their whole weird Kickstarter.com/www divinity dash dot, but if we want a Kickstarter and just search for Divinity Call Shotgun, I'm sure it will come right up. That Kickstarter will launch 1 week from today, so I'm hoping to launch it next Tuesday around noon. But yeah, at this point, even just Google search Divinity Call Shotgun. I've got enough links out there. It's popping up, so you'll find it.
Cool, cool. Yeah, and I'll make sure to share that link so that it's there for people to click on and check out in the video and all of those kind of things as well. So glad to share this. Anything that we've missed that you want to make sure to share before we close out?
Hmm. I don't know. If you like fun comic books, just check it out. If you want to just see some wackiness with some heart, just kind of go on a crazy road trip, I don't think it's going to let you down. I think it's a super fun ride. So yeah, it's just been comic books is a journey. I love making them. So I hope people support this book, and I can't wait to see where it goes next from here.